Hello and welcome. This is Jason Van Sickle. I'm president of J. Van Sickle and Company, and this is the Low-Income Housing Tax Credits tutorial. Now let's just jump right in. Who benefits from low-income housing tax credits? Well, the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program is actually a program that was set up by the federal government to provide incentives for developers or apartment complex owners to provide affordable housing to low-income individuals and families. And so it applies both to new construction or renovations, like I said, to developers who are developing new apartment complexes or to people who have apartment complex that they want to renovate. The Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program can apply to either one of those. The main benefit for the developer or the property owner is that the low-income housing tax credits provide you with incentives that you can then take and that you can then take and offer to investors, because let's get honest, the hardest part about doing development projects or renovation projects is that you need the capital to do it. And so when you've got the tax credits, when you're in, like this program, when you get the low-income housing tax credits, you can take those to investors and say, I'll promise you these tax credits or part of these tax credits or a combination of tax credits and payback from cash flow, but it gives you an extra tool to use to go attract investment in your project. So how do you qualify? The Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program, as I mentioned, is a federal program. It allocates federal tax credits. And if you want to know more about tax credits, there's a great just general tax credit tutorial that we have posted. Just check out our YouTube page and you'll find it there. But so they're federal tax credit, but they're allocated at the state level. The federal government has gone in and said, we've got this pile of tax credit we want to allocate. We've got this formula. I won't get into exactly what it is right now, but we apply this formula to decide how much of the overall funding each year each state will get, and then we give it to the state to allocate. And so you're going to need to know which organization allocates your state's funding, and that's really the first example of why it's important to have an expert or consultant who can help you navigate this process, because not only do you need to know where to go, you're also going to need to know what the application requirements are. And quite frankly, these are competitive programs. There's a set amount of funding each state gets to allocate each year, and quite frankly, there's often more people applying than there's funding available. And so the best projects are the ones that get the funding, and the projects are seen as being the best based upon what kind of proposals they submit, and what quality of application package are you submitting. Does it look like you know what you're doing? And again, that's where finding an expert to help out can be very valuable, and then putting together a real quality project proposal as your application for the tax credit program. And so let's say you do all that and you're successful. Well, you'll get what's called a reservation, and that's where the allocating authority says, we're going to reserve this amount of credits for you that you can then use you'll be awarded for your project. And I say awarded, and it's called a reservation, not necessarily award, because the tax credits are allocated to you over time, not in just one big chunk. We'll get into that here in a minute or so. So you receive your reservation for tax credits, so you go and you do your improvements. You do all the upgrades, the things that you said in your proposal you were going to do. You get all those improvements completed, and you get your certificate of occupancy, and you start leasing. Okay, well now this is where during the renovation phase and the first year is when you start receiving your tax credits, and these tax credits are allocated over 10 years. So that means, for instance, if you got awarded $1 million in low-income housing tax credits, then you're going to get $100,000 in federal tax credits each year over those 10 years. But that means that your compliance period is going to be at least 10 years. That's one of the reasons they allocate them out over time, to make sure you stick with what you said you were going to do. So you're going to have a compliance period, and it can sometimes be longer than 10 years. It can be 20 years or more. That comes down to what you pledged to do in your original proposal. But during that compliance period, you're going to have to comply with what you said you were going to do and with the requirements laid out by the program. Or if you fall out of compliance, fail to meet the standard you're supposed to meet, you can have the remainder of those tax credits revoked, which can obviously put you in a bad financial situation. So again, it's important to find an expert who knows this process. I would engage not only an expert up front that can help you with the application process. I'd make sure that you have a property management individual or team in place that's familiar with complying with this type of a program, because that's absolutely critical to successfully receiving all the credits that that were reserved for your project. And so, just a final thought, any type of a real estate development project, they're complex, there's a lot of pieces, usually there's a lot of money at stake. I recommend from the very beginning, get a comprehensive project analysis done. J. Van Sickle and Company provides comprehensive project reviews and pro forma analyses that really say, here's the blueprint, or better yet, here's the roadmap that we're going to follow. Here's the things you're going to encounter. Here's how we're going to deal with them. Here's how the money's going to flow. Here's the projects that can benefit this, or the programs that can benefit this projects, like these tax credit programs. Here's how they're going to plug in. Smart diligence and planning up front can save you a lot of time, headaches, and money. So find people that can help you create that roadmap for your project. And for more information on low-income housing tax credits or other tax credit programs, please feel free to visit jvansickleandcompany.com. And if you found this tutorial useful, then please do us the favor of subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you.